Hey guys, so Riley Dennis is one wretched little faggot.
Trigger warning. This video violates all forms of safe spaces. Leftists, run immediately.
He/she has made videos on why your dating preferences are discriminatory, on why rich white men want to take healthcare away from poor people, people of color, and women.
Who needs checks and balances when you have a bunch of old rich white men making decisions that will mainly affect poor people, women, and people of color?
And now she's gonna claim that your biological sex is now a social construct. Just think of it for a minute. Your penis and your boobs are social constructs.
All around me are familiar faces, worn out places, worn out faces.
Before getting on with the video, it's vital to remember one point. There are only two genders and there are only two sexes. With that being said, let's get on with this crappy video.
I know there are people who don't think being transgender is a thing, and this video is not for them. This video is for the people who say, yes, trans women are women, but they are still biologically male.
You mean sane people? Because we all understand that there's such a mental illness known as gender dysphoria, and because of that, biological men can transition into females. That's how biology works. That's the sane position to take. So what do you have to say with people who are sane in the way they think?
Because while their intentions might be good, the impact that these words have is actually very harmful.
You are a retard. Yes. You are a retard. Yes.
You heard it from her. So the truth is now harmful. Saying that water is wet or the earth is not flat. That's harmful to the people who believe that water is not wet and the earth is actually flat. Oh my god, you dumb idiot.
Trans women are not male, and saying that they are allows some people to justify the mistreatment of trans people.
How the fuck did you come up with that conclusion? Saying that trans women were biologically male now means you support the mistreatment of trans women. Again, if saying that the earth is not flat does not mean that I support the mistreatment of people who say that the earth is flat. The truth does not result in some other made-up conclusion you just made up in your mind, I don't know, 10 seconds ago.
So I'm going to assume that you already really believe that trans women are women. If you don't believe that, this video isn't meant to convince you.
Well, of course, if someone is biologically male and he transitioned into a female, I'm ready to accept that fact since he has overcome the illness of gender dysphoria and actually taken the surgery to transition into a female.
Alright, so let's say that you're trying to be a good ally to trans people and you heard that sex and gender are two different things. Sex is biological and gender is a social construct.
They're both not social constructs. Your sex is linked to your gender, which is linked to your chromosomes. One gender has XX chromosomes and the other one has XY chromosomes. That's just basic biology. There's nothing to do with a social construct. Money is a social construct, which is created by people. Biology is defined by science.
That's not entirely true.
You're right, both of them are not social constructs.
Sex and gender are two different things, but they're both partly social constructs, just in different ways.
Wrong.
For a long time, gender has been assigned to people based on their perceived sex.
Yes, you determine that by looking at the baby's chromosomes, which is science.
A doctor looks at a baby's genitals and determines what gender it will be raised as. In our culture, this used to be unquestionable fact. You were raised as the gender you were assigned at birth, and being transgender wasn't an option.
So what the heck do you expect the doctor to do when you were born? Just look at you and say, oh, it could be an elephant. It could be an HDMI cable. We just don't know. So let's just let the baby decide what it is. No, you dumbass. Of course you're assigned a gender at birth by looking at your chromosomes.
Today, many of us recognize that gender is far more complicated than a person's perceived sex.
You mean biological sex?
Gender was a social construct before and still is now, but how we construct it has changed.
You're following Goebbels' philosophy of if you repeat a lie enough times, it will become a truth. Once again, gender is not a social construct. Your sex is linked to your gender, which is not a social construct either, which is linked to your chromosomes, not a social construct. So you're following this pattern of repeating the lie over and over again, expecting people to not notice that. But it's still a lie.
Now we can say that your gender is based on how you identify because we realized that basing gender on perceived sex was oppressive.
Fuck no!
So what you're saying is science is oppressive because biology is science, and science tells us that gender is not a social construct and neither is your biological sex. What a dumbass.
Again, I'm not really talking about society at large because a lot of people still don't fully understand what it means to be transgender, but I mean within trans-accepting communities. However, even within these communities, binary sex has, for some reason, stuck around as the same kind of unquestionable fact that we used to think gender was.
Here's what I don't get. I consider gender dysphoria to be a mental illness just like science does. But I consider surgery to be a way to combat gender dysphoria, and I'm okay to accept people who go through the transition and look like a male if they were born female. But what I will not do is lie about the fact that gender and sex are both not social constructs. And by believing that truth, that's not being oppressive. That's being factual.
But for now, let's just talk about what it means to be male or female.
XX and XY chromosomes. That was quick.
Because I would argue that sex needs to go through the same change that gender has already gone through. It's not a static fact, it's a social construct.
Except it hasn't. Gender is still not a social construct. You can keep repeating that lie, but it still won't be the truth.
I'm sure that some people are having this knee-jerk reaction that sex is based on biology and you can't change a person's biology. But that's exactly what we used to say about gender.
No, we still keep saying it because gender is not a social construct. Explain to me then why do trans people have to go through actual biological surgery if it's a social construct?
2,000 years later.
Yeah, you sure can't explain it, meaning that your logic is fucking flawed.
Sex is a way of categorizing humans based on a combination of a few traits. Chromosome,
Meaning that gender is not a social construct and neither is sex, because they're linked to your chromosomes, which is a biological fact.
genitals, gonads, hormones, and secondary sex characteristics like facial hair or breast development.
Which are all based on science, meaning that it's not a social construct.
And you certainly can't tell a person's chromosomes by looking at
Of
them.
course you can. They're linked with your gender, which is not a social construct.
Before puberty, children with penises and children with vaginas are really not that different. It's the rush of hormones around puberty that begins to develop the secondary sex characteristics. People with penises tend to develop facial hair, gain muscle mass, and get a deeper voice. People with vaginas tend to develop breasts, get wider hips, and have more subcutaneous fat.
You just explained the puberty steps for boys and girls. And there are the two genders. Meaning that,
But these are not perfect differentiators of sex.
of course it is. It's your biological sex that you were, quote, assigned to at birth. That's what determines the puberty stages. I just want to stop, man. This video is killing me.
Some people with penises don't develop much, if any, facial hair, while some develop beards, and the amount of facial hair that they have doesn't make them more or less male.
Well, women don't generally get mustaches. I think that has to do with biology. Or maybe it's being a trans bigot. I don't know. Probably should kill myself. I probably will after watching this video.
The same goes for people with vaginas. Some of them will develop large breasts, some of them will develop small breasts, but neither of those is more or less female.
The fact you're developing breasts makes you a female. You fucking dumbass. And that's a part of biology, which means it's not a social construct.
Some people with vaginas will have deeper voices than some people with penises, and some people with penises will be shorter than some people with vaginas.
And that has to do with science. So men are biologically stronger than women, but some women are stronger than some men. Does it mean that science is flawed? No, there are of course anomalies in science, but that doesn't mean that science itself is flawed, because science is factual. And your social construct bullshit is not factual.
It's not like all people with penises fit into one box and all people with vaginas fit into another box.
Oh look, male and female. Thanks for explaining it to us.
It's like they're all in the same box, but people with penises tend to hang out on one side and people with vaginas tend to hang out on the other.
You know why that could be the case? Because people with penises are biologically male and people with vaginas are biologically female.
Plus, all of these secondary sex characteristics can be changed, either through hormones or surgery.
Yes, because you can either chop off or get a dick.
When people assigned female at birth take testosterone, they tend to get deeper voices and grow more facial hair, while people assigned male at birth can take estrogen and develop breasts and more subcutaneous fat. And if puberty blockers are taken before hormones, a person assigned female at birth might never experience a female natal puberty, or vice versa for people assigned male at birth. So the sex you were assigned at birth doesn't necessarily tell you what secondary sex characteristics you'll have later in life.
Here's a mind-blowing fact. If you are biologically a female, you will never grow a penis.
That means that telling someone you know their sex based on their secondary sex characteristics is just not true.
And so let me guess, your unsubstantiated claim that gender and sex as social constructs are true? Science says no, bitch. Sorry guys, I literally could not keep on watching that video. She keeps making the same point. Basically, that you can chop off your dick, or you can get another one. We all know that. So it doesn't change the fact that you're biologically a male or a female. That has to do with biology, which has to do with science, meaning that it's not a social construct. I may keep repeating that, but that's a fact. You can't deny science, otherwise you are a science denier. You can keep saying that the earth is flat and the sun revolves around the earth, so as to make it true. The evidence points to the fact that the earth is round, and that the earth and the other planets revolve around the sun. And that's what science tells us about gender and sex. They're linked to your chromosomes, which are a part of biology. With that out of the way, let's just simply conclude. There are two genders, there are two sexes, and there are two chromosomes. If you create a totally separate gender, then you're an attention-seeking whore or you have some major mental illness. That's not gender dysphoria, because then you either transition from male to female or female to male. But if you have the urge to make up genders, then you have problems in your life. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed the video. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and I'll catch you later. Peace.